In 1925, an Austrian political agitator sat in a Munich prison cell, serving time for high treason. With no army and no state under his control, he spent his days filling a notebook with sketches of a colossal triumphal arch. These sketches functioned as the governing program for a power that, within 20 years, would set the world on fire. Hitler viewed the actual capital of Germany with active animosity. 1920s Berlin was the epicenter of Weimar culture, a city defined by expressionism, political cabaret, and a cosmopolitan diversity he intended to erase. He proposed a radical solution: the physical destruction of Berlin to make room for Germania, a new capital designed to be the center of a global empire. Germania was the physical manifestation of Nazi ideology. Every street and building was engineered to replace the chaotic freedom of the Republic with total, rigid conformity. Hitler's territorial ambitions were governed by the program, a multi-stage plan for global conquest. It relied on the concept of Lebensraum, expanding German borders across Eurasia in calculated, concentric stages. Germania was designed to be the architectural anchor for the final stage of this plan: total planetary domination. The city's aesthetic was intended to surpass the ruins of antiquity. By building on a scale that made ancient Rome and Babylon look like school models, the regime signaled that a new master race had taken possession of the cosmos. This plan abandoned traditional urban planning in favor of a city that functioned as a psychological weapon, engineered to dominate the mind of every inhabitant. In 1937, Hitler gave architect Albert Speer extraordinary powers to realize this vision. Speer's design centered on a north-south axis 5 kilometers long and 120 meters wide, broader than any boulevard in the Western world. Speer diverted all private and commercial traffic into an underground tunnel, leaving the surface as a pure theatrical stage for military parades and party marches. At the northern end of this axis sat the centerpiece of the project, the Volkshalle, or People's Hall. To understand the volume, consider St. Peter's Basilica. The Volkshalle's dome was 250 meters in diameter, 16 times larger. The entire Roman basilica would fit inside its top opening. Designed to hold 180,000 people, a single citizen beneath the 290-meter dome becomes an insignificant point. The architecture weaponized scales so effectively that Hitler himself would have appeared as a 2-millimeter speck to the furthest spectators. The individual was meant to vanish into the mass of the state. The regime operated on ruin value theory, the belief that building with massive granite would leave behind striking Roman-style ruins for civilizations thousands of years in the future. This obsession with eternity ignored basic physics. Acoustic engineers calculated that the Volkshalle's interior volume would create a reverberation time of over 30 seconds. A single sentence spoken at the podium would blur into a wash of echoes, making the dictator's voice unintelligible. Engineers also identified a bizarre indoor weather problem. The combined breath and sweat of 180,000 people in a sealed stone hall would rise to the ceiling, condense, and precipitate into rain inside the dome. Speer's granite monuments faced an insurmountable physical reality: the ground itself. Berlin sits on an alluvial plain of swampy sand, a soil entirely unsuited to support the weight of these structures. To test the bearing capacity, engineers built the Schwerbelastungskörper, a 12,000-ton concrete cylinder simulating the load of a single pillar for the triumphal arch. The cylinder sank over 19 centimeters into the mud, tripling the allowable limit, and proving the arch was unbuildable. Hitler ignored the data and ordered the plans to proceed. The regime's hubris was such that they believed ideological willpower could override the fundamental laws of engineering. Realizing this vision demanded immediate, systemic violence against the city's inhabitants. Speer's resettlement department evicted over 100,000 Berliners to clear the land. Residents of the upper and middle classes were moved into apartments seized from those with less power. This urban management targeted Jewish families specifically. Their homes were seized to house displaced Germans, while the families themselves were funneled into ghettos and death camps to make room for Germania. The red granite required for the ruin value aesthetic was sourced from the Flossenburg concentration camp. Prisoners there were worked to death in the quarries to provide the stone for Speer's projects. Systemic extermination and slave labor were the mechanical gears that drove the construction. The architecture of the world capital was financed with blood. The vision for Germania was halted by the material shortages of the very war it was meant to celebrate. Not a single stone of the Great Hall was ever laid. By 1945, the man who dreamed of a 1,000-year capital died in a bunker beneath the ruins of a destroyed and humiliated Berlin. The physical remains of the project are scattered and marginal. A relocated victory column, a few street lamps, and the massive concrete test cylinder. That heavy cylinder continues to sink into the swampy Berlin mud, millimeter by millimeter, every year. Today, the scattered remnants of Germania sink into the mud, monuments to megalomania, and a chilling record of the millions of lives destroyed for a city that never existed.